So in yesterday's video, we talked a little bit about the idea that the more wisdom you can gain, the more powerful you can get, and the quicker and easier you're able to achieve your goals. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch the previous video. But in this video, I wanted to dissect that a little bit and try and figure out how we can all increase our wisdom and more accurately understand the way the world actually works. So if we break it down, we all have a paradigm, we all have a view of the world. And like I just said, if that view of the world was completely accurate, we would be infinitely powerful. So if we're not infinitely powerful, it's because we have an incorrect paradigm of the world. So a paradigm is basically just the sum of thousands of different beliefs that you have. It's the aggregate of all of the different thoughts and beliefs on how the way the world works. So we know for a fact, because neither me nor you are infinitely powerful, that some of the beliefs that we have are incorrect, they're faulty, they're inaccurate depictions of reality. And this is really, really useful to understand. We go about our lives and we think that everything's normal, we think that everything's right, but that's false. There are some percentage of the beliefs and the thoughts that you have on a day-to-day basis that are simply inaccurate. They are myths. If you were to dissect them, you would slowly understand that that is just not true. That's not a fact. That's not the way the world actually works. It's a complete delusion. We're walking around with fog over our eyes. And the more deeply that we understand this, the more naturally curious we get, and the better learners we naturally are. We don't have to force ourselves to learn. We don't have to force ourselves to read. When we understand how naive we are, it makes us want to learn effortlessly. And on that note, it's why you should be careful when you watch my videos or anyone's videos or you read any book. I know for a fact some of the beliefs and the thoughts that I have are false, which means that some percentage of the videos I make will have beliefs and thoughts that are false, that could potentially damage you. It's a scary amount of power that I hold, so all I can just remind you of is take everything I say with a pinch of salt. Some percentage of it is wrong, so think for yourself, really take in what I'm saying, process it through your own paradigm, and you may find that it's false. That probably has happened and it probably will happen into the future. But anyway, where do these beliefs come from? If we have faulty beliefs, where do these beliefs come from? Well, all of our beliefs are formed from inputs that we've experienced into the world. Our brain is like an AI, and it needs to take input, it needs to take data into the AI before it can start to process things, before it can start to understand the world. We have to take things in. And a large percentage of the things that we take in come from other people, especially the society that we're in. And what ends up happening is society's delusions ends up getting passed on to you. And the scary thing about this is because they're society's delusions, because they're the same delusions that everyone around you has, they become so ingrained in the fabric of reality that we never even question them. We accept them as default. We accept that they are just part of the nature of reality. But a large percentage of this is false. So you've got to start to think for yourself. You have to start to question things. You have to start to inspect things. When you hear someone say something, you have to look back at your life and figure out whether that thing's true. We have to start applying our brains more, otherwise we're going to fall prey to society's delusions, the worst kind of delusions. And it's especially scary when we're not allowed to question things. There are some topics that society holds so dear to them that even by asking the question of whether this is true, you'll receive backlash. You're not even allowed to think for yourself. It's viewed by other people as such a given of truth that we're not even allowed to think about it. And when we think about it, people start getting offended. But the reality of this situation is if you're questioning someone's belief and they're getting offended, that's because they don't really have the core fundamental principles needed to have that belief. They don't understand that that belief is true so fundamentally that when you start to question it, they are so scared that they don't argue back. They just say, no, you can't think that, and they start getting angry. If somebody has a deep set of beliefs, a deep-rooted paradigm and someone questions that, the person with the deep-rooted paradigm will look at the questioner as childish, as someone who simply hasn't looked deep enough into this topic. But so many of us, including myself, have these opinions that we hold so dearly to us about what's right, what's wrong, what's moral, what's not moral, what's politically right, what's politically not right, what is the way to achieve goals, what's the way to achieve success, what's the way to build health, to build relationships, to live a good life, to live a great life, to find our purpose. We have such set opinions on all of these things, but the problem is we haven't thought long and hard about these opinions for years. So why do we have conviction over something that we haven't thought long and hard about? We shouldn't have conviction over something. In fact, we shouldn't even have an opinion on a topic unless we've looked into it. But for some reason, it feels like we have to have an opinion on anything. Anyway, I'm rambling at this point. I also have a theory that not just all power comes from understanding, but all suffering comes from delusion. All suffering comes from not seeing the world clearly. And if we can actually see the world, if we could see the world exactly how it was, we'd have no suffering, and we'd be all powerful. But I don't know. What's the phrase? I'm below my head in water. I'm drowning. All of this stuff. I make videos about this stuff because I'm actively grappling with it. So really take everything I say with a pinch of salt. But yeah, I hope this was slightly valuable.